and I'm here with a special guest host, Jugo. What's going on?
What's up, man? What's up? I'm happy to be here. Happy to be here once again to talk about my favorite TV series out right now. Just excited.
Let's
Thank.
go. I'm excited to talk about it too. As you know, Jazz is not with us. Jazz was not able to catch up enough. He's got a lot of things going on. Jazz is making moves. If you don't know, I don't know if a lot of you guys follow Jazz. He's a little private, but he is very much into politics and he is doing a lot of work with the Texas Democratic Party right now in terms
Really?
of getting support for Palestine and getting letters written and I don't know, lots of stuff that's like above my knowledge. All I know is
Wow.
I just support Jazz. I'm just like, all right, Jazz, you're smarter than me. Uh, Let me know. Give me the cliff notes, and he does, and I was like, yo, I can't wait to support you. So Jazz is doing some big things right now. He is doing it, for the people, and hopefully, once he has a little bit of time, he'll be back. So we love Jazz. We miss him, but he's doing bigger and better things right now at the moment. Uh,
That's what's up.
but yeah, that's what's up, man. But I am glad to have you back on the show because last time we went over Invincible, we had so much to talk about, and now we have
Yeah.
a mid-season finale, and now I'm like, wow, where do we go from here? So for the first
Right.
4 episodes, what are your thoughts about this mid-season finale? You think this was a great time to stop it and give us a little bit of a break and then pick it up again, or do you think they should have given us a full season no stopping?
I mean, when you take into account the fact that the season two took 2 years to get here, 4 episodes in and then a mid-season finale going on for, I guess, like a month. I heard something about it coming like mid-January or early February.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of crazy. I'm not gonna lie. I do think it's kind of crazy. But if it was like an inevitable thing where they were always going to do a mid-season finale, then I thought episode four, that battle, whatever the stuff that happened in the episode was a absolutely perfect place to end this first half of the season.
Yeah, I mean, it was really, really great. I'm very happy with the way it ended. I'm also happy with about the way it started off because it starts off exactly where the finale of season one ended off, which I was very curious about because when this show starts off, you're like in the middle of what's going on. You have no idea what's going on with Omni Man and Nolan and where he's at and what he's doing and what was the aftermath right after that fight. And here we get to see this like amazing you know, uh, scene with him just slowly gliding through space to the tune of
Yeah.
Avalanche. I thought that was just such a well shot scene. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I thought it was really beautiful. Like, does it like you could literally paste the season finale of season one and the beginning of episode four together, and it would look like the same episode in terms of like how you immediately see as he gets away from Earth and he's flying through space. I thought notably one of the most interesting things about that sequence of him floating through space was the black hole and seeing that like how it was designed. And I noticed
Mhm.
this, which I thought was pretty cool, that damn near every black hole in popular media ever since Christopher Nolan's Interstellar has been designed like based off of Christopher Nolan's Interstellar design, which was similar to the first images that we ever saw of a black hole, which I think like came out just a few years ago or like a few
Yeah.
years after Interstellar, which I thought was really cool. So it was dope seeing how they animated that black hole and just the animation was definitely really cool.
The animation was amazing. I really, really liked it, and it looked like Nolan was really at a loss and almost going to throw himself into the sun, which I was like, "Wow." And then before that happened, a ship appeared and he needed to help them. So he's like, "All right, let me
Mhm.
do one last good deed, and then go." What are your thoughts
Mhm.
about Nolan? Did you think he was gonna actually fly into the sun, or what do you think was going on with him? Because Mark
Yeah,
had some effect on him. The fact that he was ready to throw it all away after that
right,
battle, like, something has
right.
clicked in his brain.
I was watching it and I'm like biting my fingers, like, because like I'm like, he's going to kill himself. No way. And the way I sort of interpreted that scene was that like it was truly a stroke of luck. Because if not for the fact that ship had shown up at the time in which it did, and he would needed to save them, that he would have like ended up actually moving forward and ultimately taking his own life within the sun.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought that was really, really cool to set that up, and then he goes and lives amongst these people, right? And we learned that in the last episode, he's the one who brought Mark there. And he says,
Hmm.
"Hey, they need your help." Now, I'm thinking, "Okay, this is some kinda ploy, this is some kinda
Hmm.
plan, I don't know why he brought Mark here." But it
Hmm.
turned out they did need his help, and Nolan
Yeah.
does seem to have turned over a new leaf
Hmm.
when it comes to these new aliens, and I'm just like, "That's interesting," and I just love the reaction that him and Mark have, because at first, Mark tries to punch him or tries to make him flinch. He doesn't flinch at all,
Hmm.
and then he tries to do
Yeah.
it again, and then he does a hug, and then
Yeah.
after that, he goes, "Fuck you." So it's like so many
Yeah.
emotions going on here, which I
Yeah.
thought was just such a well done interaction with them meeting for the first time after what happened.
Yeah, there was a million different things I can imagine going on in Mark's head at the time of meeting his father. I mean, the last time they'd seen each other, he had beaten him near to death. And so it's like there's a sort of dichotomy there with like Mark missing his father because, that's the person that raised him for the last 17, 18 years. And then remembering that that's also the person that nearly killed him and traumatized him in a way that is like irreversible. And so seeing all of those emotions play out one by one by one with like the clenched fist and then the flinching and then the hug and then the back to the fuck you, I thought was like just a really good quick way of like showing us all the emotions that are swirling in Mark's head right now as he's seeing his father.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I thought that was really, really cool, and then he has these bug people, then he has to explain to Mark why he needs their help, but Mark is just like, "Fuck you," he's leaving, and then he goes like, "I don't care," and he goes, "I know that's not true." And then Mark
Mhm.
has to be like, "Okay, he called me out. Obviously, I do care." Also the fact that he's like, "You're a million miles away and you don't know how to get home." So, like, Mark was really just, like, stuck there, which I thought was pretty funny. And then you find out that, like, when he brings them back to his place, you find out he's got a grasshopper sugar mama that he shacked up with,
That was
and
weird.
that was weird, and he started making out with her, and I was just like, "Oh, this is gross." And then he's like, "You already replaced mom," and, it's really interesting because, like, he did call her a pet before he left, and now he's with an actual grasshopper, so it's weird. So I think
It's just-
right? And but I think they did
yeah.
this to kinda show us what
Mhm.
we are to the Veltramites, because, like, when you see these, like,
Mhm.
bugs that are kinda like
Mhm.
pets for you, and the fact that they only live a
Mhm.
year, it's kinda like
Right.
how we reflect to Nolan, because our
Mhm.
lifespans could feel like just a year to him, and we also feel
Yeah.
like more life forms, like bugs to him, you know? So, like,
Yeah.
where you're watching season 1 and you're like, "How could he call her a pet, and how could he not care about these people?" And then they give us, like,
Yeah.
these bugs to desensitize us to their plight, so that we can kinda
Yeah.
just be like, "You know what? We're not that much better than him. We're kinda in the same boat." So,
Wow. Yeah.
like, I really thought that was well done.
Wow. What's crazy is that like I don't know. I've never thought of it like that before. Like that was a really insightful way to frame that because I was always wondering, even with reading the comics, like why bugs? But when you put it like that, it makes complete and utter sense. As you were saying, like, what we see creatures like that, similar to that on Earth. They're vermin, they're unwanted. We have we've created entire industries built around sort of creating chemicals to kill bugs of that nature,
Yeah,
and their lifespans are so alien to us, and their existence, even though they're not doing anything to us or bugs at home, their existence is like something that is treated as like an insult to our own
yeah,
existence. And so yeah, like seeing the bugs on that planet, as the audience, and looking at like why would he, that's so cool that like we sort of are getting put in the place of Viltrumites because we're questioning Nolan now. Like, ew,
right?
why would he hang around those creatures? That is such an interesting insight.
it's so wild, and I was thinking about that, and I was like, "Wow, I really like the way that they did this." And then he has a son with this person. He goes, "This is your brother." And now,
Mhm,
like, Mark is very conflicted because number one, he like hates this person who is taking replace feels like he's being replaced. His mom's being replaced, he's being replaced. But also this child is innocent. The woman is innocent, right? They didn't do anything
mhm.
wrong. So Mark is saying these things because he's frustrated, but deep down he knows he's kind of wrong and he does have to help these people. So I thought that was really, really cool. What are your
Yeah,
thoughts about
yeah, it was
that?
clearly hard. It was clearly hard for Mark. I mean, it would be hard for anybody, right? Because you're watching your dad, and he's got
Yeah.
a new wife, and he's got a new son. All within like what, like 4 or 5 months of him beating the mess out of you just recently, and then calling your mother a pet. And so, like, there's a bit of a conflicting sort of battle in there with Mark of like his sort of anger towards his father and for what his father has done, getting with a whole new family, and still like, and there's where the choice of being a hero comes in. There's where Mark's sort of
Yeah.
hero abilities comes in, because regardless of how he feels, he recognizes. And I thought it was really sweet that he tells her, he's like, it's not your fault. I'm
Yeah.
still, but it does still hurt. Like, he recognizes it in himself, the pain that he feels, and and the validity of the pain he feels, while still like being emotionally mature enough to let her know that like it's not on you, and that I didn't mean those things that I said about how you were a replacement, or so on and so forth. And I thought that was such incredible growth for his character, and it just shows that like he truly is more human than Viltrumite in the ways that really matter.
Yeah, and I didn't expect that. I did not expect to see that side of him so soon, which I thought was really, really interesting. And then there is a flashback, or not a flashback, but we're back on Earth and we see his mom, and she's kind of just walking through the streets. And it's the same exact scene as Nolan flying through the planets, and she's
Mhm,
walking through the scene, and it's the same shot, it's the same kind of music. And then she finally
mhm,
arrives at his grave and starts saying, like,
mhm.
"I didn't really know you." I thought that was shot also really, really well because it just, like, matched the tone of the beginning of the episode, and
Yeah.
husband and wife, and how they're kinda just, like, they were in the same space of, like, headspace of what was
Mhm.
going on with them. So I thought that was really, really interesting. What are your thoughts with the
Yeah.
mom?
I love the parallels. I really, really do. And like I've said this before, but dude, it is so amazing to see how in this TV series they are fleshing out and developing Debbie Grayson as an actual character, because I cannot stress enough how in the comic book she is so wasted. She is like
Mm,
set into the background. And like she doesn't
wow.
really get any sort of like characterization at all. So I'm experiencing the character of Debbie. The people who are reading the comics, who have read the comics, we're all still experiencing the character of Debbie for the first time, and seeing what they do with her is really cool, and seeing that parallel, and just the grief that she's going through,
Yeah.
was really awesome. I mean, the whole episode, like apart from the major episode, or the major sort of scene in the end, which we'll talk about later, the whole episode is a reflection on sort of like the characters, not only Nolan but also Debbie and the agent person. I forgot what was his
Yeah.
name, but they're all
Dolan?
sort of what was
Donald.
it? Donald? Donald.
Yeah, yeah,
Love
Donald.
Donald. But the whole episode is just an exercise in sort of like finding oneself, and like trying to find out who you truly are, and trying to find out who you like, where you're going. An exercise in being lost, I should say. And I thought that was
Mhm.
that was a cool theme that carried throughout.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I really love the way they kind of focus on some of these characters you don't expect them to focus on. Because I was just rewatching episode 1, and they have, like, a
Mhm,
good, like, 10-minute of dialogue between 2 security guards, and the security guards are just talking about how they're, like, he had an adopted son, and they had a rough relationship, and he gave him a shiner, and now he's proud of him because he kicked drugs and he graduated, and I'm just like, did we never see this character ever again? But they gave him this amazing backstory for this random
yeah,
character who was voiced by John
yeah.
Hamm, which is really cool. But it's just so
Oh, that's
random
right, it was.
the way this show does that. So they'll find some small
Yeah,
characters, and they just like focus on them, and I'm just like, wow, I am very interested in this person. That's it goes. It
yeah, and
doesn't
it's like
matter if it's written well.
that's
Like you can get engaged with any character.
100%, and it's really cool because that is like the opening scene for the entire series. Like
Yeah,
for the, that's a big deal for that to be the very first scene, the very first way you're introduced into Invincible is just a casual conversation between two regular human being security guards. And I think I made a TikTok about this not long ago, but the scene really has a lot of symbolic value for me because it's about him like talking about the difficulties of raising that son and how like
mhm,
it was hard in the beginning and they sort of hated each other and but they've really pulled through and they're they've really like worked on their relationship and now they're in a much better place than they used to be, and it's such a human relatable conversation that also subtly like hints at the larger father son dynamics at play between Mark and Omni-Man that we'll see throughout
absolutely.
the series. So I just thought it was masterful.
It's just yeah, so well done. A big fan of that. All right,
Mhm.
and then we see the Mahler twins who show up again, and they make another clone, but this time they know who the original is and who the clone is,
Yeah.
which I thought was pretty interesting. And I was just like, okay, fine, that happened.
Mhm.
And then at the end, we see that they tries to make more duplicates, and instead of them working as a team, one is
Mhm.
basically pushing the other one around because one person knows that he's the original and the other's a clone. And then the
Yeah.
clone ends up murdering him with poison lemonade because he was like, "No,
Mhm.
it's better for them not to know who's real and who's a clone." And they work better that way. I thought that was
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
cool. I didn't see that coming.
It's crazy. I didn't see the murder coming, but I thought that the clone who knew he was a clone was going to kill himself because the Maulers before, when they were sort of giving Rudy a new body, it already explained that like it's dangerous to know, like to have the information on who the clone is and who isn't the clone, because like
Yeah,
that creates so many complications. So I'm like, why isn't he taking his own advice? So my assumption was that the clone was just going to end up killing himself because who wants to live knowing that they're a clone? So it also took me by surprise that he ended up killing the original as well. And I
yeah.
love seeing the Mauler twins, like whatever they do almost like never really has anything to do with the story at hand. It's just fun to see them doing their own thing.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Like they just pop up every now and then. Even in the first episode, they just pop up because they're going after the White House, and then it was just a way to
Mhm.
introduce Omni Man. So it didn't really have anything to
Mhm.
do with anything else, which I thought was really cool. But I do like the fact that now whoever is the clone is technically a clone of a clone. So I
Mhm.
don't even know. Like, it doesn't even matter if which one's the original or
Yeah.
not, right? So
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, the assumption is that, like, I would assume that like that original hasn't been around for a while because they've gone through like throughout season one and season two, like we've seen like 3, 4 Maulers die on screen,
yeah.
and it's like they any one of them could have been the original, and we could just be running on clones of clones of clones. There's no telling how many times the Maulers have actually died and then recloned themselves.
That's true, that's true. All right, now speaking of clones, what do you think is going on with Donald? Because Donald goes and he goes to Debbie's house, she's not home,
Mhm,
and
mhm,
then he looks over to the house that exploded, and he
mhm,
finds his glasses. So he goes in,
mhm,
he does some research, he goes typed in his passwords, he's locked out, types in Cecil's password, somehow he knows it, he gets in, he sees his own death, which he's completely shocked by. So he knows he
yeah,
died. So then he stabs himself to see if, I guess, if he is human or not. And he sees
mhm,
blood and he's very relieved that he's human. So he may be a clone, but he's human. But
mhm,
the knife is bent.
yeah.
So is he like half clone and half android? If he's a complete android,
Mhm.
we don't know what's going on with Donald. I think that's a fun side story that like I didn't
Yeah.
even think we were gonna have.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Like I was saying, I just love that we get a tidbit about Donald and like self-exploration and being lost and not knowing what he is. In the comics, it's a lot more cut and dry. I forgot what happened to Donald. It wasn't Omni-Man, but I forgot what specifically happened to Donald. But essentially, something happens to Donald where like he almost dies, and then he comes back as a cyborg. Like they give him all these cybernetic implants and so on and so forth. And like that's something he's just cool with. Like for throughout the rest of the series, it's just part of his character. There's no sort of exploration. There's no question. But it's really cool how in the TV series they're sort of taking that and flipping it and making him question what he is. But my assumption is like he is still a cyborg. Um, Probably, but what I don't know is that like Donald, I mean that building exploded. Like they dropped an orbital nuke on the house. Like I have no like
Yeah,
my assumption was that he was completely vaporized. So it seems to me that this must just be a clone entirely, or like some sort of, like you
yeah.
said, cyborg clone.
And they must have had the plans for a clone even before he died. They probably just had it like ready to go. So I don't know. I'm really surprised
Right.
about that. And then another side story that's going on is the one with Adam Eve. So Adam Eve
Hmm.
goes to visit the friends in school because she's trying to reach Mark. She can't reach him, obviously, because he's in space. And
Hmm.
then she says she has a place nearby. And then somebody decides to steal some kind of orb from that place. And then she goes
Hmm.
and fights this guy, and they have a big brawl on the bridge. And because of that,
Hmm.
these two old couples, their car goes over the bridge, and do they die? I don't know, but she isn't able to save them in time. So they're
Hmm.
definitely incapacitated, and the EMTs come in there, rush to help. Adam Eve's going through it too, man. What are your thoughts about her
Yeah.
storyline?
Yeah, hers is really, I think she's one of my favorite characters in the series, and they just how they explore her powers and her relationship with Mark and her relationship with her parents. Like it's almost as tragic as Mark's story. Um,
Mm,
and so like she presents herself, and it was really cool is in that battle, she presents herself as somebody that is like entirely capable of saving the day on her own in the same way that Mark is. And I think that's really cool. They're not sort of nerfing her or making her look weak. Um,
yeah,
and seeing her like sort of giving her that arc of failing to save those people who, when I first saw, I thought were her parents. I could definitely be wrong, but I don't know why they look like her parents to me. Um, but seeing her like lose like that and
yeah.
have them hurt was heartbreaking, honestly.
That's the one thing I really like about this show, because they show the heroes losing a lot.
Yeah,
Like, it's like
yeah.
usually to the point where I'm like, "Yo, is he ever gonna win a fight?" Like, like Mark loses so
Yeah,
much, but like
yeah.
I like that about this show. It's not like, oh, the hero's gonna win every time. It's really really great to see
Mhm.
that. And same thing with Adam Eve. Even if she did beat the guy, she didn't win because she was
Yeah,
careless and people died. And
yeah.
then she goes back to her house, and she's kind of just like, I don't know, her dad said that she's reckless and her powers are dangerous, and now she's coming to realize that
Mhm.
maybe they are. I'm
Mhm.
very curious because they came out with a Adam Eve series. Like, the Adam Eve has her own episode, and it's
Yeah,
really really good. You get to learn about a lot of cool backstories, and you get to learn how her
yeah.
powers work. And she is really one of the most powerful people in all of Invincible. She is very like
Oh,
up there.
100%.
Yeah,
100%. I haven't seen the series yet because I honestly didn't even know it existed until very recently, and so it's been on my list to check out. But
yeah.
I saw
It's just
some
one
clips
episode.
on. Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
bet. Yeah, because I saw some clips on TikTok of her like fighting, and I was like, she's fighting better in this than I've ever seen her fight in the TV series of Invincible. Like she was
Yeah, yeah,
kicking ass. I mean, she was
she
so good,
does.
and the animation was super crisp. And like, yeah, I'm really glad that like showcase the fact that yeah, when Adam Eve bypasses the sort of mental block, she's easily like top three most powerful in the entire series. And I'm so excited
Wow,
for how they're gonna manifest that later on.
that's cool, that's very cool. Alright.
Yeah.
Alright, let's see. Alright, so, let's go back to the Viltrumite story. So, as they're talking about what's going on with the Viltrumites and stuff like that, um, they Mark agrees. He agrees to help, and he's like, "But what can I do? I couldn't even beat you." And then Nolan's like, "It's
Mhm.
fine, we'll train." As soon as he said that, the Viltrum might show up. So you're like, "Oh fuck." Mark's not ready. So
Yeah.
Mark decides to take his brother, um, and his brother's mom to a safe cave. They get to these caves, and then he has this like heartfelt conversation with them where she's like, "I was not trying to replace your mom. I didn't really know that. I was already head over heels for him but by the time I knew about you and your story, but your dad really loves you and he talks about you a lot." I thought
Mhm.
that was really, really great. So like we actually see like Nolan has changed. He is
Yeah.
changed and shook to the core. And then
Mhm.
um this. Voltamite comes in. I believe his name was what
Lucan.
was Lucan. He looks like Steve Harvey, which I heard someone
Yep,
said that he actually is based on Steve Harvey, which I think
that
is
makes sense.
hilarious.
That makes
That's
perfect sense.
that's hilarious. Yeah. So it was really really cool to see this fight, and Mark ends up being beat pretty bad. There's this one scene where he beats
Yeah,
Mark with one finger, and you're just like,
with one
damn,
finger.
these
Yeah, that
guys
was
are
crazy.
strong. And then you
Yeah,
know
that was
how
insane.
strong Nolan is because Nolan beats the
Mhm,
crap out of him, cuts open his entire guts and stabs him with a rock. And I'm just like,
mhm.
holy shit. So he
Yeah.
asks his mom to go in and go further into the caves, and then he goes back to fight the other two. What were your thoughts about the fight in the cave?
I thought seeing Lucan do that figure shit was so funny.
It was really funny.
Like with one finger, I was dying because I'm like, these are what Viltrumites really, really are. I mean, he was toying with him. And did you see that sort of like he looked at Mark and he was like, okay, like you seem okay. But then he looked at the Mark's little brother and he was just
Yeah,
filled with disgust. I find that
disgust.
really interesting. But yeah, that fight itself was dope. And one thing that like I noticed about Viltrumites from that fight is that like they're stronger than they are, like they're more strong than they are invulnerable. Like their strength is higher than their level of invulnerability.
Yeah,
Which is why like a lot of the times they end up just like punching holes through each other and like like they're a lot stronger than their bodies can handle. And so I see how like Omni-Man just slices him in the stomach like it's nothing, like just with this
yeah,
one fell swipe. And I thought that was really interesting because that's something that I feel like we're going to see a lot more of with how Viltrumites deal with each other. It's just like that one hand chop where they just like cut everything with that one wrist move. But the fight itself was really cool.
yeah. I thought the fight was pretty cool too. And then we have Nolan and Mark get back to where they were, and they see all of these dead, like, aliens there. And Nolan is like really, really upset, and he grabs Mark by the throat and he goes, "Why do I feel this way? Why do I care about these insects?" And you're just like,
Yeah,
"Holy shit!" He's not just putting on a show. He's not just trying to, get Mark to like him again. He really cares, and then you're just like
yeah,
shocked. And he doesn't like the fact that he cares. He's just like, "How is this
yeah,
better? How is this good?" Just
yeah.
great storytelling right there, and great character development. What are your thoughts on
That
that?
was a beautiful scene. That was really beautiful scene. Like you are watching this man have a midlife crisis. And what is really interesting when you take into context is that Omni Man is like what like 5,000 years old by now, which means that he has been through thousands of years of Viltrumite indoctrination. I mean, and Viltrumite are
Yeah,
literally space. Like they're genocidal, they're supremacist, they're fascists. And so
right.
he's been through thousands of years of fascist indoctrination, and all of that is unraveling like in real time. And so we're seeing the mental anguish and fallout of that sort of indoctrination unraveling. And they do that so well because he's angry and he doesn't understand his feelings. He doesn't, because it's the first time that he's ever felt genuine love and care for creatures that are lesser than him.
Yeah.
And watching him sort of battle that within his mind. And like you said, it was just really good storytelling.
Yeah, no, it's really good storytelling, and it's really interesting where like they're not mad at Mark. They're like, "Well, let's see if you're good enough to be part of the Viltrumite Empire. We could accept you." Like they're okay with humans because apparently their blood mixes so well with humans that
Yeah,
he's pretty much full Viltrumite, even though he's half,
yeah.
which is very
Yeah, I
very
thought that was cool.
interesting. Yeah.
Mhm.
So like no one other than Nolan has procreated with a human. Is he supposed to be like the first one?
Yeah, yeah, Nolan is the first ever Viltrumite on Earth that's ever met humans, and, like, I would tell you why, but it's a bit of a spoiler,
Don't
but
spoil it. Don't
just,
spoil
like,
it.
keep in mind but keep in mind that, like, it is important sort of Nolan's relationship with humans and,
Okay,
like, that he
very
was
cool.
sent there for a reason.
That's cool. All right. So Nolan's fighting, and these two people, two Viltrumites come down. One is the girl with the hair with the knife at the very end, which I thought was a very cool look. The other guy was Vidor, and Nolan goes and fights Vidor, and Mark is fighting the woman with the hair, and
Mhm.
Nolan is kicking ass, and to the point where he has to help Mark also. So he like beating up this guy,
Yeah.
and there's just one scene where he just smushes his head in, and I'm just like,
Uh,
damn. And that's kind of like what you're saying. Like their bodies are not like super invulnerable. Like he is able to
yeah.
squish that person's head and brains in together,
Yeah.
which I thought was crazy. And then he tells Mark, "You can't fight like you fight on Earth. You have to fight to
Mhm.
kill here, or else they're going to kill you." And then
Mhm.
Mark sees all of the dead aliens, and he's like, "Shit, I have to." And then he actually puts
Yeah.
up a fight. But then
Mhm.
at the very end, he hesitates, and she stabs him, which I
Yeah.
thought was really, really interesting. So the one time he actually hesitated, it made him
Yeah.
lose the fight. And then
Yeah.
Nolan
I thought
came
that was
in.
dope.
Yeah, and then Nolan came in, he saved him, and you're like, "Okay, good, happy ending." And then out of
Mhm.
nowhere, Steve Harvey comes back, kicks him right in the spine, and he's holding his guts with his, like with his hands while he does this.
Yeah. It was
Wow, what are your
nasty.
thoughts on that fight?
That fight was like, dude, it was like 4 minutes of just pure excellence. Definitely the best fight that we've gotten in the entire series. And I was so stoked for this episode when I saw episode 3 because I was like, I know the Viltrumites are coming. And it did not disappoint. It was like I'm watching it with the biggest grin on my face. I thought it was really awesome. And I thought it was cool that you see that Mark's issue isn't necessarily that he's not as strong as the other Viltrumites. It's that he is far more merciful than the other Viltrumites, and
Yeah,
that like that's the big barrier. That's the big mental block that keeps him from fighting. And so and it's crazy because like when he sort of gets rid of that mental barrier, it's not that he just wins by a little bit. Like he's beating her ass. Like he is
right?
dominating the entire fight. And at the last minute, being the human being, caring person that he is, he couldn't find it within himself to make the killing move. And I thought that, I'm glad that they went that route. That Mark is
Yeah.
still like a good person and he wouldn't kill. But overall, the fight was just magnificent. What did you think about it?
My favorite part is when Nolan elbows the woman in the jaw, and half her jaw is like
Oh
broken. That is a
yeah.
Mortal Kombat fatality. And I was like, holy shit, that is
Yeah,
amazing. I love this show.
yeah,
Give me more.
it was so dark and messy and so amazing.
It was really, really cool. I really like that. And I even like where he like Nolan gets kicked in the spine, and you can hear the crackle, and you're like, "Oh, that's not a kick.
Mhm,
Something's broken in there." I
mhm,
thought that was really,
yeah,
really great. And
yeah.
then the guy goes, "It's done," and passes out. So really, nobody won. They all pretty much just kicked
Yeah,
each other's
they all lost.
asses.
They all lost that fight, like, to terribly. Like, you see, like, Invincible's, like, laying there half dead, and there's nothing
Yeah.
he can do. Yeah, everybody lost that fight.
Yeah, man. Everybody was kind of paralyzed. And then they get picked up, and he's like, "Hey, remember all the good I've done. Remember my books," which I thought was really interesting because they also mentioned the books earlier on in the episode where Debbie
Mhm.
decides to give up
Oh,
everything.
yeah.
Give up the house, the books, the money, all of that stuff. She doesn't want to be indebted to Cecil, and she
Mhm,
wants the money to go to the people of Chicago, which I thought was really, really cool. But then he brings up the books again, and I'm just like,
mhm.
why do you say that? Why do you say read my
Yeah.
books? I don't understand that. I feel like there's
Yeah, it
something
does feel a
there.
little weird. Yeah, it definitely does feel like there's something there because like why on earth would he talk about like the last thing he says to his son before he gets carted off away to be executed is read my books. So yeah, I'm definitely interested to see like what it is he's talking about.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. But the Viltrumites show up, and they're like, "This is what you're gonna do. You're gonna go back to Earth. Since Omni Man blew his cover, he can't go back
Mhm,
there. Obviously, he's like, you're still like there, so you're gonna go back. You're gonna take his position, and either you can kill a
mhm,
few people, or we're gonna come and we're gonna kill millions." Like,
mm,
damn. And they're
yeah,
like, "You don't have a choice. And unlike your dad, we're
yeah.
not gonna change our minds." Um,
Ooh.
what were your thoughts on that?
First of all, the voice actor. Jesus Christ, what's his name? I forgot his name. Do you remember? You know his voice. He's like Mr. Krabs. He was also in Gen V. He was also the voice actor
Let's
for what was his name? Something
let's look it up.
something
General Krieg
Craig.
Invincible. Voice actor. Voice
You'll know
actor.
it as soon as you see him. You'll know as soon as you see him.
What? It's David Tennant?
Yeah. What?
This Doctor Who?
No, not David Tennant. Am I tripping?
It says right here,
General.
David Tennant voicing General Krieg.
Really? It sounded like
Yeah. Oh no,
oh,
it
I'm
says
thinking of it.
Clancy Brown.
Yeah. Clancy Brown. So wait, so who
Um,
did David Tennant play?
wait, what? I don't know. It's a TikTok of him doing it. Oh, never mind. It's a different General Craig. It's from a different show.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
from the Legend of Voice Machina. There is
Yeah,
a General Craig in that show too, and it's voiced by David
that
Tennant.
is funny. That is so that is so strange.
That is
No, I was
strange.
talking about this one. What was his name?
Clancy Brown.
Clancy Brown, famous, wonderful voice actor. You know his voice from anywhere. He was the like the guy in Gen V, like the teacher that she tried to get into the hero class. But anyways, I loved his voice. Seeing him or hearing his voice, hearing him be General Craig was amazing. Um, I was really scared for Invincible in that interaction because
Yeah.
I genuinely thought they could have they could have just killed him right there and then been completely done with it. But they didn't. And so like having them like for forcing him with this ultimatum of like you either like prepare Earth for being taken over or we come and we kill you and most of their like millions of people. Like I have no idea like how he even hopes to like get out of that like in the future. Like
Yeah.
what does he even plan to do?
It does seem like it's hopeless. It seems like the Viltrumites are just way too powerful. The fact that
Yeah.
like Omni Man is so strong, and then you have an
Mhm.
entire planet full of him. Like,
Right.
what? How is that gonna
Yeah.
happen, right? So it just feels
Yeah.
like it's impossible. And then we see how they took care of Alan the alien and
Mhm.
bodied
Made quick
him,
work of him.
right?
Yeah, I
So
mean, they washed
it
him
definitely,
entirely.
yeah, and it definitely makes us feel like what's going on this season. So like for when the season returns, I'm really
Mhm.
curious. There's so many things I want to know about. Is Mark gonna go back and tell everybody what happened? Is Alan the alien
Yeah.
going to live? What happened
Mhm.
with the Thaddeus who basically tried to kill uh
Oh,
Alan
yeah.
the alien, right? Like all these
Yeah.
things. And then there's stuff
Yeah.
like what's happening with the Guardians. Are they going to be able to fight the Viltrumites? Because they don't look like they can handle a lot of stuff at the moment. And then there's
Mhm.
also the professor with the portals. He's still going around figuring out
Oh,
how to kill
yeah.
them. So there's a lot of storylines that are going on right now, and I'm
Yeah.
very curious. Are they all going to be wrapped up in the next 4 episodes, or are we going to
Mhm.
see a few of them leak over to the next season? So I'm very curious.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I honestly I have no idea either like where they're going to go with this next 4 episodes because I remember Robert Kirkman saying that he said specifically season 2, episode 4 and episode 8 were really crazy. And so we've already
Yeah,
seen episode 4. We know what
yeah,
he was meant by episode 4, but I have absolutely no clue what he means by episode 8 is going to be crazy. What storyline is going to be focused on? What happens? What I guess I do know is like the Viltrumite storyline. I don't see that being like resolved in this season. But what I am
yeah,
but I don't know in terms of what other storylines they're gonna go for. Because like you said, I had completely forgotten about the multiverse person, the person who could switch
yeah,
multiverses, because he's got a plan. And so like it's up in the air, and like the Guardians of the it's funny that you said the Guardians of the Globe are useless. Like they're not like this. Let's be so for real. They're not
yeah.
fighting anybody from Viltrum. They're not taking anyone.
No,
So we'll
no.
see.
they're first of all, the first Guardians of the Globe got their ass kicked by one Viltrumite. So like, what are
One.
these kids gonna
Uh,
do?
yeah, just one.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. I don't know. I really love the way this show is shot. I think it's shot really beautifully. They have brought in some
Mhm.
amazing voice actors to be in this whatchamacallit show. And I just love that they don't really pull punches, right? They'll drop the F bomb.
Yeah.
And like when they drop the F bomb, it doesn't feel like they're doing it just to drop the F bomb. They're just like,
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
Mark's emotion. He's like, fuck you. Like he's
Yeah.
upset because of everything that
Yeah.
happened, right? Just so
Yeah.
good, man. The delivery. I don't know. I
Yeah.
just really
He
love the
delivers
way
great.
it's. I just love the way it's written. What are your thoughts about
Yeah.
this? Overall,
D
the first 4 episodes.
the voice cast is stacked, like probably the most stacked voice cast I've ever seen on an animated TV
Yeah,
series. I mean, there are so many big names in like the smallest roles. Like you told me John Hamm played the security guard in the
I
beginning. Like
know.
that's insane. Yeah, and you'll see that all throughout the series. You'll just have like these A-list actors or like really legendary voice actors playing small roles and like giving it their all and genuinely like pouring their emotions and their whole like sort of mastery into these roles. And so on that level, it's like this show is just far above a lot of other animated TV series in terms of its voice cast. But the first 4 episodes themselves of the season, I think, were paced really, really well. I think
Yeah,
this is why I'm not mad that they split them up into like half a season, because one episode 1 through 4 felt like almost a season in itself. It's paced really
yeah,
well. The every episode was really interesting. There was always something new. If it keeps going like this is functionally, this could easily be like top 5 greatest superhero TV shows like of like the last 10 years,
yeah. No, absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree with you. I think it's definitely one of the best superhero shows. In fact, two of the best superhero shows I feel like are on Amazon Prime. To be honest with you, I
Facts.
think
Facts.
right. It's really interesting because Marvel, we like Marvel, but like Marvel is the Disney thing. It's never going to be that dark.
Yeah.
It's never going to be that serious. They're not going to be dropping F bombs,
Yeah.
right? It's family
Yeah.
friendly, PG-13
Yeah.
at most, right? So that's what
Yeah.
we're doing, which is fine. I feel like there's a place for that. There's
Absolutely.
there's a butt for every seat. There's a people who need that and they want to watch
Mhm.
movies and shows with their families and their kids. Love that for them. I
Yeah.
also love to do that, right? But this is like something you're just like, all right, let's be grown-ups now and let's
Right.
watch a little darker
Yeah.
whatchamacallit superhero show. It's basically what like the Snyderverse pretends to be.
Oh, that is perfect. That is actually a really good way of putting that, because Snyderverse had that sort of maturity level in there, but like the stories themselves weren't good.
Right,
Like the stories themselves
exactly.
weren't good. So this gives us like the mature, absurdity, dark themes of the Snyderverse, but with like actual good storytelling. Like you're absolutely right.
Absolutely.
It's what Zack
Yeah.
Snyder's films think they are.
Exactly. That's gonna be my tweet for this episode. All right, man.
No,
So,
seriously.
thanks again for joining us. And once this show comes back, which isn't that unheard of, a lot of shows do go on break for Christmas in January because I think like
Facts.
holidays and people start school and stuff like that. So people go on vacations around this time. So it's not that unheard of.
Right.
So hopefully, when
Yeah.
the show comes back around, we can have you back on, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Anytime. You know me.
All right, cool, man. Let people know where they can find you real quick.
Yeah, 100%. You can find me on Instagram at Destructo Jugo, as well as TikTok. That's where I post the most. And you can also find me on uh, Twitter, under the Sentinel King, and I'll type that in the chat at Sentinel King KB. And
All right.
yeah,
All right,
yeah,
man. Well,
thanks a lot,
thank you.
man.
Yeah, thanks so much for being on, and we can't wait to have you back, man. And until
Yeah,
next
man,
time,
thanks a lot.
guys, Salaam nerds.